Hi, welcome from my hometown of Perth in Western Australia, and thanks for supporting the GARIMPEIROS Project. For the past 15 years I've photographed some of the poorest people in the world, miners working with their bare hands in some of the most dangerous environments on earth. I've slept in their houses, I've broken bread and eaten with them, I've been there at the coalface while they've worked day in and day out. I've descended mine shafts, shovelled dirt, dived for sand, carried sulphur, scraped up waste oil and pushed their ore wagons. I've climbed their cliffs, avoided insurgencies, negotiated with mafia and helped carry their coal. I've gotten to know many of these miners intimately. There are 280 million of them employed directly and indirectly around the world, almost exclusively in the third world. These miners depend on this activity to feed their families, to provide education for their children, and to aspire for the better lives that all of us aspire to. In recent years, the world's developed nations have been exerting significant pressure to shut down many of these mining operations and to change the way we do things, or they do things. This recognises in part that the work of these miners is far from perfect, and some of the most difficult issues of humanity are tied up with the work of what they do. Things such as organised crime, terrorism and extremism, environmental degradation, poor safety practices, child labour, human trafficking, it's a long list. We, the average person, hear of the initiatives to help these miners, help being inverted commas, being described as responsible sourcing or ethical sourcing or formalisation or even legalisation. They're noble sounding terms that give belief to the consumer and to the governments that they have the power to do good in the world by how they make their purchasing decisions. But little thought is being given to what happens to these miners as these new initiatives are implemented. What happens to the miners who lose their jobs when the developed world pretends that it wants to do good? How these miners will feed their family or put their children through education or even put a roof over their heads of they and their families. For 15 years I've been immersed not just in the lives of the miners I photograph, but also in the knots and the twists that we in the developed world seem hell-bent upon wrapping around the lives of these miners. I've seen our thirst for third world minerals being disguised as solutions, pretending that we want to help the world's poorest. I've seen the world's rich and powerful ignoring their own substantial failings only to then shine a torch upon the failings of the world's less fortunate. The height of hypocrisy. But almost nowhere have I heard the voices of the miners themselves. So I'm doing a book to put pressure on the world's developed nations to properly look after these people when decisions are being made about their livelihoods and futures. Where do they go? What alternative employment opportunities do we create for them? To say that it's not okay just to dump these people on the street, that we must do better, that we must find alternatives for them, to force people to work on solutions before they put these miners out of work in the interest of developed world expediency. Virtually no one is out there teaching the world about the work of these miners. Through this project, I aim to give a global perspective about their lives underpinned by world-class imagery across each of the major mining continents, to educate the masses outside of the work of consultants and academia and free of the biases of the rich and the powerful. Through my work, I want people to start caring about these miners so their needs are taken into account. To give these miners a future when the rich and the powerful meet to decide on their livelihoods. Thanks for taking the time to hear me out. Really grateful to have you on board and really hope we can do amazing things together. Thanks a lot.